Hello all, this is Barbara Mann from Your Empowered You, and welcome to our video on tips on how to handle a layoff and still be successful. So if you've ever been laid off, I've been laid off and I've had to do layoffs. It is a very emotionally draining event. A lot of times people don't know that they're going to be laid off. Sometimes maybe they do know, which, at least the shock is you're able to handle the shock over time. But a lot of times people don't even know that a layoff is coming, or maybe they've heard the buzz, they don't know who it is. It creates a lot of anxiety. And we're going to talk about why companies do lay off employees, some of the feelings behind being laid off. Again, that feeling of being a little bit of blindsided and shock, and how to handle that. We're going to talk about, some of the steps to take on how to handle a layoff, which, part of it is finances and healthcare, things of that nature. We're going to talk about really taking your time and figuring out what you want. It's really a time to self-reflect, figure out what you need to do, what you want to do, and also taking advantage of some of the placement services that are offered if you have been laid off, or career counseling. So sometimes your human resources department offers those types of services. So let's talk about, why do companies lay off their employees? A lot of times, if you've been laid off, there's some reorganization going on. They merge with maybe another company, and there's some redundancies with some positions, and they don't need as many people, and they're trying to streamline operations. Sometimes, companies are consolidating their operations and creating more regional type operations, or bigger and larger campuses in centralized locations, and they don't have a need for the smaller locations throughout the country. A lot of times that's a cheaper way to operate, and a lot of companies do tend to do that. One that is a big one is technology. Technology creates electronic efficiencies, and you don't necessarily need some of the manpower. I remember that's one of the first times I was involved having to lay off people, is when our systems were going into more an electronic environment, and it had impacted the employees, and I had to lay off several of the support staff because of these technology changes. And then the bottom line, the last reason companies lay off employees, and again, there's many more, but they're not making money. They're unprofitable. Maybe their sales are low. They have some inefficiencies. Maybe it's poor management. But there's a lot of reasons why companies lay off their employees. And even in this time that we have with historic low employment, there are still layoffs going on. It will happen over time, even in strong economies. And a lot of folks got laid off. This is when I did back in 2007, when it was slipping into recession. But when you're in recession, obviously employees tend to get laid off because things slow down. So what are some of the first things that we need to, what are some of the first things that happen? Well, if you don't see a layoff coming, your initial feeling is something you need to deal with. Because if you don't see it coming, you're probably going to feel like complete shock and disbelief. You're going to maybe feel hurt, and you're angry, have a sense of grief, maybe panicked a little bit, maybe there's a violation of trust. There's all kinds of feelings that you may have. I remember when it happened to me, I didn't see it coming, and when I look back, I should have seen it coming, and I didn't. But I remember when they called me in, and the HR person's there, and she's talking, and I literally am just like, I can't even hear what she's saying at all. I couldn't go back to my desk. I had to literally just leave the operation without saying goodbye, not getting anything. They grabbed my purse, and I left. And my head, I was so in shock. And so I know that feeling. And then you go through a variety of emotions, that anger, that, gosh, I trusted my employer, and you go through a grief because you identify with your job and coworkers, and you have a sense of grief because there's this loss now, sudden loss. But the most important thing is allowing yourself to process these feelings and know that it is normal. What I've seen some people do is they try to either rush through the feelings, or they suppress these feelings and think there's something wrong with me for thinking being hurt, or feeling angry, or being in shock. And you hear people say, oh, well, you'll find something else. And yeah, that's true. But the thing is that it's happening to you now, and allowing yourself to really process the feelings and not suppress them is really important to moving forward. The other thing that I would advise, because you're in shock, if say you haven't seen it coming, you're totally blindsided, is reread all the information that you've received when you get home, when you're sort of your head's out of this like unbelievable, disbelief. You may have reviewed it with HR and other people, and say, if you have any questions, do you have any questions? And you're not even listening, so you don't even know what to ask. But review everything that they've given you, because you probably didn't even hear it, and it's important information that you need to follow up on. So, some of the first things that people tend to focus on is, oh my gosh, my finances, my health care, what the heck am I going to do? When you get laid off, you file that unemployment claim ASAP. You may have a severance going on, but still file the unemployment claim. That's first and foremost, because obviously if you need the money, you need that coming in. Healthcare is another big priority. The options are, you go on your spouse's healthcare. There's COBRA that's going to be offered. It's expensive, but it's available. And then you can just have your own type of insurance through the Affordable Care Act. But some of those are the things that are the priorities that people start thinking about is, the finance, the money stream, the healthcare. How am I going to deal with that? And what I would highly advise is take this time to review all of your finances, your mortgages, your bills, your entertainment. How much money are you spending? It's shocking when you really figure out how much you're spending on your cable bill, your mortgage, your monthly car payment, your entertainment, things of that nature. And really review all those finances to figure out, what can you modify? What can you eliminate? What can you reduce? Does your mortgage company offer any kind of assistance for you? Are you paying too much for, say, your phone bill or your cable bill or your, car payment? How can you work to get these things reduced or eliminated? Review everything. It's not just, because of the situation of being laid off. It just makes sense. If you have the time, review everything. You could be easily save maybe $200 to $300 a month, and it may not sound like a lot, but in a year's time, that's over $2,000 to $3,000 or $4,000 that can be saved, and that just makes sense. But having the time to really map out those spending habits and seeing how you can modify them, especially if the finances are going to be an issue, is imperative to do that. Just write it down on a spreadsheet. Be very realistic. Don't give yourself, I'm going to only spend $100 in food. That's unrealistic. Be realistic and figure out what you can modify. Review your passive income streams. Do you have rentals? How much are those generating? Is it time to maybe sell some of those income streams and reinvest? How can you leverage your money? How can you leverage things like your 401k? There are ways to do these things. Maybe it's a time to do some retirement planning and meeting with a financial advisor to figure out what's your steady stream of incomes looking like. Really having those passive income streams, leveraging money, and thinking about the future. If you have the time when you're laid off and you're reviewing all those finances, I would highly advise taking advantage of looking at everything. I mean everything when I'm talking about the finances. Okay? So let's talk about taking some time, if you can, to really reflect on what you want. The first thing we talked about, though, is process those feelings first. It's hard to go forward if you haven't processed your feelings. You may think you're fine, and then it may hit and you may be sad. It's like it's a process. You're going to go like this. Some days you're going to be fine. Some days you're going to be distraught, probably. It is a process when you're dealing with loss, because when you get laid off, it's a loss. It is a process. It's okay. It's normal. People get through it. And there is no necessarily right or wrong way, but it is very normal. But the things that you really want to think about, if you can think about this, is what do you want to do next? You may not have this opportunity again to think about what do you really want. Do you want a career change? Do you maybe want to explore a franchise opportunity? Do you want to open up your own business, be self-employed? Do you want to stay in the same career? Do you want part-time, full-time work? Do you want to be part of that gig economy that people, talk about? What do you want? It's a good time to think about and self-reflect and be patient and really think about it and write it down. What do you want? So when you're thinking about what you want, and say you want to do a career change, career transition, all that, then you have to think about, okay, what do I need? If it is a career transition or another type of job, what do you need? Do you need additional education? Do you need certifications or licenses? Maybe you should talk to a career coach and get some advice on some, where to get the resources. You need your resume updated. What do you need? You want to make sure whatever you're deciding to do aligns with your core values. And it's like, well, why am I thinking about my core values? Because who you are, when you're being laid off, it gives you a chance to figure out, who am I? What am I really all about? What are my core values? And is that aligned to the choice that I'm making going forward with the position that maybe I want to seek? Think about your values, your beliefs, and all those sorts of things. Write them down and figure out if it's aligning with what your next change is going to be. And keep the mind as open as it can. Again, this is your opportunity to explore. Explore opportunities. Keep your mind open. Don't say no to anything. Just think about things. If you can, avoid feeling desperate. The things I want to stress, though, is that you may not have this opportunity again to really start thinking about what you want. If you go too fast and you get into another job, it may be something that maybe is not fulfilling to you. This is a chance for you, and if you weren't fulfilled in your past position, to really obtain something that makes you feel fulfilled, makes you feel valued, aligns with your core values. But keep the mind open, explore all the opportunities. They're probably not going to all align to what you want, and that's fine. Doesn't mean you need to take it. It means that you're exploring and keeping your mind very, very open. The last thing I want to touch upon is if your prior employer offers any type of career placement options or programs, take advantage of those. It may take you a week or two to finally reach out to the placement company that I use Right Management. That's who I was placed with. And it may take you some time, and that's fine. But take advantage of those types of placement services. They help you with your resumes. They can help with networking. They can help with interviewing. You can also explore having a career coach who can assist you with your options and keeping your mind open and planting some seeds, assisting with the direction that you may want to go. And that's more, one-on-one type of coaching session. But if they offer any type of resources, take advantage of those things. You're probably going to hear some, feedback about maybe your resume. You may think you have the greatest resume in the world, but I guarantee you they're probably going to give you some assistance. And they have tools to really hone in on great resumes, on making sure that your resume picks up on the key words of certain job titles. They have scanners to go through it to make sure it's picked up through the applicant tracking systems. But take advantage of that in any kind of interviewing assistance. If you haven't interviewed in a while, it is a skill. You may be nervous, but take advantage of any resources that they may offer. So let's wrap this up in a bow. Layoffs are going to happen. They've happened before. They will happen. If it happens to, if you're listening to this, maybe it just happened to you, maybe it's happened in the past, but they're going to still happen in our economy, whether it's a great one or whether it's less than great. But let the things we talked about, let your feelings be processed and you feel them. This is normal. When people suppress them, that is something that causes more issues. Later on down the line, they may get desperate, but it's okay to feel lost because it is lost. So finances and healthcare and other priorities should be dealt with, obviously, first and foremost. And I can tell you, when you have time to review your budget and your finances, you'll be surprised at how much money that you're spending and how it can be adjusted accordingly. If you have the opportunity, take your time to figure out what you really want. Figure out what is that ideal position look like. Can you take that time to open your business? Can you work part-time? Is that what you want to do? And then finally, take advantage of any resources that your prior company is offering, such as, the career placement or career transition type of options. Take advantage of those. In at the end of the day, sounds like a cliche, and when you're first getting laid off, you don't want to hear this, but you usually do end up with a better position, and it becomes a blessing in disguise. People are going to tell you that, and you're thinking, oh God, you don't want to hear it at that time. It's really like the last thing that you want to hear. But it is true when you're able to get that better position and reflect back. I know that happened to me when I was going through my layoff. I was sad, you get sad, but, and I interviewed a few times. I didn't get positions, but I ended up getting a great one that became a 10-year fabulous run at that company after I got laid off. It was the best job in the whole dang world. And it was a blessing in disguise to get that layoff, because if I hadn't gotten laid off, I hadn't been able to get that position. So you just have to know that most likely when you get laid off, you end up in a better spot, and it is like this little gift that was presented to you. It doesn't feel like one, but it is. So I hope you enjoyed our video on how you can handle layoffs and still be successful. So for additional resources or to schedule a session with me, please visit my website at www.yourimpoweredyou.com. You can email me at bman@yourimpoweredyou.com, or feel free to call me at 916-633-2555, and I thank you very much and have a very empowered day.